Alright, hello everyone. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Hannah if you're new here, and hopefully this is going to be a rapid fire review of the rest of the books I read in April. So my last video I was reacting to my TBR, which was 12 books, and today we're tackling the rest of the books that I haven't already discussed with you. I have a few books that I read that I included in reading vlogs, and so you can check out those. But these are the books that you haven't seen me talk about anywhere else. The first category I'm going to be talking about is romance, and I read 2 romances this month. The first I'm going to discuss is The Companion by Ee Ottoman. Now, this is a historical romance set in a small town in New York State, and our main character, Madeline, is kind of fleeing the big city due to some strife from being trans, and she is going to live in a house with another trans person, a trans man, who is kind of offering his home for her to seek some shelter and some comfort and safety. His name is Victor Hallowell, and he is also a writer, and Madeline hopes to kind of connect with Victor on that level. There's also a neighbor farmer named Audrey, who is also trans, who swings by and has a sordid past with Victor, but something about Audrey really entrances Madeline, and the 3 of them become entangled. Now, this is a very smutty book. I will say that. There is a lot of smut in here, but this is also very quiet, very calm, very peaceful, and the whole point is kind of a trans healing journey from some trauma related to the characters being trans. I think that element was really sweet and really beautiful, and so I highly recommend the book for that reason. Not only is it just smutty, but it's also tender and loving and caring. There was a few issues with the writing I had. There was months pass throughout this very short little work, and the passage of time flying by was kind of unclear. It was a little jarring. I said I liked the throuple, but I feel like these characters needed to actually talk to each other first, which, if that doesn't bother you, if you don't mind these characters like meeting and then like almost immediately falling into bed with each other, I think you would like this. But for me personally, I think they just needed to talk, like 2 conversations before they fall into bed. That's all I'm asking for. I am also a sucker for declarations of love and like the scenes of and the build up to that scene and the character just admitting their feelings to each other, and this happened in this book very quietly, which I think it could be appealing to a lot of people, but for me, I was hoping for like a big kind of showy declaration of love. So I still like this book. I gave it a 3.5 out of 5 stars, and I think if you're looking for a quiet and a soft romance that's really steamy, you would really like this one. The second romance I have is Kiss Her Once for Me by Alison Cochrane. This is a Christmas romance story, contemporary romance, and of course it's spring, but this is when the library had it available, so here we are reviewing it in April. This is about our main character, Ellie, and this is a single point of view story from Ellie's perspective, and Ellie had a romantic encounter with a woman named Jack a year ago on Christmas Eve or Christmas Day, and they spent the whole day together, and essentially Ellie fell in love with this woman and then never saw her again. And in order to process her grief kind of over this whirlwind romance and all the feelings attached to it, she does online comics expressing this story. And she is really in a bad way. She got fired from her job. She's really in need of some money. Her mom is terrible, and she gets swept up in a marriage of convenience plot with a rich man. The rich guy, Andrew, his sister is named Jack, and it turns out that his sister is the woman that Ellie fell in love with a year ago, and they have to spend a week together in their winter cabin for the holidays with their family. I liked this book and gave it 4 stars. I loved the family in this. Ellie's parents are so horrible that her clinging on to Andrew's family, Andrew and Jack's family, was super, super cute, and them just warming up to her and accepting their into her home was really heartwarming. All the Christmas activities were a lot of fun, and I really like Jack and Ellie together a lot. I think their romance is one of my favorites in terms of the dynamic. This book is dramatic, this is silly, this is messy because they're, you know, hiding the marriage of convenience, but Ellie's secretly in love with the sister, and so there's lots of dynamics here that make it a really messy and dramatic book, which is what I liked about it. I think I'm giving it a 4-star, not a 5, because I think the plot in general wasn't my favorite. Like the plot is them at this cabin spending time together doing Christmas traditions, and that was really lovely and sweet, but I kind of just would have preferred something more. So if you just want something fun and Christmassy but also very emotionally moving, I really think this is a good one. I also like the side character Dylan, who goes by they them pronouns, and their involvement in the story made for an interesting dynamic as well. So this is a very diverse cast of queer folks, people of color, and I think this one was a hit for me. The next genre we're going to talk about is like post-apocalyptic horror thriller slice of life. And the book I read was The Moon of the Crusted Snow by Wabge Shig Rice, and this is an Anishinaabe writer. This book is about this man and kind of like the whole reservation. It's more about this community that is going through the apocalypse together, and so something happened outside of the reservation, and you never know what that something is, but all their cell phones, Wi-Fi, everything goes down, and they don't really know what's happening, and they kind of have to revert back to some of the survival techniques that they themselves had to do when they were children and their ancestors. And of course, white people come and fuck everything up. Essentially, there's people from the city who are fleeing whatever happened and stumble across the reservation and try to seek refuge there and end up causing havoc and mayhem for the indigenous people there. This one was only okay for me. The thing that I like about horror is that feeling of impending doom, or that worried, sick to my stomach feeling, and this book didn't really quite get there for me. There's obviously these people are trying to survive, and it's tough, and you know, horrible things are happening, but the impending doom of it all didn't really kind of hit me. That's okay. It's a very short read, you know, sometimes things just don't work out, and unfortunately this one just like didn't have me feeling very deeply about it. So I ended up giving it like a 2.5, maybe a 3-star. Like, it was fine, but it was just not a horror book that I'm gonna reach back for. A horror I really liked was a sci-fi horror called Scourge the Stars by Ness Brown, who uses they them pronouns. This is about our main character Jacqueline, who is the first mate on this ship. And so the story behind the ship is that Earth was in trouble, so they sent a ship to essentially colonize a new world, and something bad happened at that new world, so they turned around and started going back to Earth. And so this ship has been in space for far too long, and they're just trying to make their way back to Earth in an attempt to survive, because that planet was kind of uninhabitable. And so generations have passed in this ship, because of course they have to travel for light years, right? And of course something sci-fi spooky starts happening. The captain of the ship has kind of given up and locked himself in his room without explanation and won't answer anybody. So our main character Jacqueline kind of has to take the reins and captain the ship through this horrible situation that's happening. And I gave this 4 stars. I really like this. This is sapphic. This is there's lots of characters of color in this book. The main character is a Black woman. There is an AI kind of cyborg person who I absolutely adored in this book, and their inclusion. I thought that the relationship between Jacqueline and this character was spot on. The horror elements, while I didn't necessarily have that intense like feeling of doom, there were hints of it. I did get a little spooked here and there, like a little sprinkling of spooky, and then of course stuff hits the fan and it becomes very violent and gory and like horror in that sense. I really liked this one. It was a quick read, it was fun, and I'm really impressed this is a debut by this author, and I can't wait to read more by them. And I really like sci-fi horror. I don't know what it is about the combination of those two things, but usually sci-fi horror just hits me right. Favorite book I read this month, so much so I went out and immediately bought a copy, is The Shadow of the Gods by John Gwynne. This frickin' blew my mind. This is a Norse-inspired fantasy story following 3 perspectives. We have Orca, who's a mother, and something bad happens to her son and her husband, and so she is on a mission to avenge her family and get her son back. Then we're also following Varg, who is an ex-slave, and he joins a mercenary band called the Bloodsworn, and this book series is called the Bloodsworn Saga. They are on a mission as well, and we are also following a woman named Elvar, who is she's very high up in a different band of mercenaries. She has a secret past that she doesn't really want her companions to know about, and that's all I'll say. This was so good. After about the 20% mark in this book, I was gripped. I could not put this book down. I almost read it in one day because I was so immersed in this world, in the plot. It was very fast moving, and I really cared about a lot of these characters. This is extremely violent, okay? Like, I don't want to mince words. It's very violent in my opinion. It's not gratuitous, and it doesn't like go into detail, but there's lots of blood, there's lots of limb loss, there's lots of beheading, there's a lot of violence in this world. So just keep that in mind. My favorite aspect of this book, though, is that it kind of lacks misogyny. And I was so impressed by that because we've got Orca, we've got Elvar, we've got all these women warriors, and it's normalized in this society. It's just not even commented upon. It was such a breath of fresh air to read a book about these warrior women and have it just be a thing. And it doesn't have to be a big deal, and I really like that. And there's no sexual assault in this book. Like, oh my gosh, finally. Like, again, what a breath of fresh air to read an epic high fantasy written by a man or a woman that doesn't have some element of sexual assault or specifically violence against women. I will say this cover is a little misleading. I don't want you to get the wrong idea. This book does not contain a ton of dragons. I personally went in with this cover thinking there's going to be dragons all over this land, and that is not true. So just keep your expectations there. The twist at the end literally had me screaming, gasping. That twist, obviously I'm not going to tell you what it is, but like, this has such a good twist. It was so well executed, and the reveal was so juicy and so good. I want to read everything. Like, that last line makes me want to read his entire backlist, and I'm not even joking. I'm obsessed. I cannot wait to get into the sequel, and then the 3rd book of this, I think, trilogy is coming out later this year. And I'm so excited. I'm really happy I found a new favorite fantasy this month. All right, those were all of the books I read in April that I haven't talked about in previous videos. Thank you so much for watching. What did you read in April? I would love to know in the comments down below, and I will see you in another video of mine very soon. Bye.